What's going on, everybody? B. Scott here with you, and on today's show, we got your quarterback sit starts heading into week 6. Honestly, this week, a lot of the stud quarterbacks got some great matchups. So obviously, I'm going to hit you with most of the must-start quarterbacks. Obviously, some sits, and then some stream options for you heading into week 6. So keep it locked and loaded right here at the first 4 downs. What's going on, guys, and welcome back to today's show where we're going over the quarterback sit starts. I'm going to go through a lot of the quarterbacks must starts this week, some streams, some sits, things like that. So before we get to today's content, don't forget, like the video, subscribe, share, thumb bell, all that good stuff, and then comment. If there's a quarterback you want to hear more about or one that I didn't mention, I'm mentioning most of them, but if there's one that you're thinking about, drop in the comment section. I'll be glad to get back to you. So let's get right into it. We're going to start with a lot of the obvious quarterbacks, plain and simple. I'm going to keep it short. Patrick Mahomes, you're starting him on a weekly basis, plain and simple. At the Washington football team, give up the most fantasy points quarterbacks. Smash spot here. Should be a lot of points to be had in that game, high over under. So I like Patrick Mahomes, especially this week. You're obviously starting him. Josh Allen, been on fire, plain and simple. The Buffalo Bills looking like one of the best teams in football. On the road against Tennessee Titans on Monday Night Football. Fire Josh Allen, no matter what. Justin Herbert, outstanding game. Highest fantasy output of the season for him just this last week against Cleveland Browns. Played very well. And now he's on the road to the Baltimore Ravens. That defense is a little tough, but honestly, Carson Wentz just had 400 yards passing against him. You're not sitting Justin Herbert. So you're starting Justin Herbert. It's obvious. Tom Brady, Thursday Night Football on the road against Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles defense, who knows who's going to show up, to be honest. And Brady dealing with a little bit of a thumb injury on his throwing hand, so we'll have to wait and see there. But you're going to be firing him here. Coming off one of his best games of his career. Never had a game with 400 passing yards and 5 touchdowns until just last week. So Tom Brady, you're obviously firing him on a weekly basis. Lamar Jackson, Lamarkable, coming off an outstanding performance. Honestly, 442 passing yards, 4 touchdowns. I want to say it was a franchise record for passing yards for the Baltimore Ravens. He's great, plain and simple. You're firing him here. Honestly, the Chargers defense, pretty good. Plain and simple. They've been good on the season. But the Cleveland Browns still had 40 points against them. Lamar Jackson, you're starting him. It's set it and forget it. His floor is way too high. Kyler Murray on the road against Cleveland Browns. Honestly, giving up the 5th most fantasy points to quarterbacks. I thought the Cleveland defense would play better, especially against the Chargers. It didn't happen. And Kyler Murray is coming to town. Good luck stopping him. So fire up Kyler Murray. Albeit, I wouldn't be shocked if the Cleveland Browns pull out the victory against Arizona Cardinals. We'll have to wait and see. But Kyler Murray, you're starting him. Jalen Hurts, you're playing him Thursday Night Football against Tampa Bay secondary. This absolutely terrible, plain and simple. 7th most fantasy points to quarterbacks. And Hurts just continues to get it done. If you had to take Jalen Hurts as your first half only quarterback, I would not be playing him. But obviously, there's a full 4 quarters that they play, and he's played well to the end of the snap period. He's getting it done with his rushing upside. We've seen it, 2 touchdowns on the ground last week. He's got the safest floor, albeit hasn't necessarily been getting it done through the air, but the floor is there, just like Lamar Jackson. You're starting Jalen Hurts at this point. He's been great through the season. Matthew Stafford, on the road against the New York Giants defense. Matthew Stafford averaging over 300 yards on the season. Giants giving up the 9th most fantasy points to quarterbacks, plain and simple. You like Matthew Stafford here. He's been good on the season. There's no way around it. Dak Prescott on the road against New England Patriots. Well, I have one thing written here. It's just check the weather. So obviously, it's looking like a chance of rain in that game. If it's raining, if the weather is not permitting, honestly, I think they're going to be able to run the ball effectively against the Patriots anyway. So Dak Prescott, maybe a sit to me. Maybe you find another option depending on how severe the weather is. Just pay attention to that when it gets closer to Sunday. Obviously, you're firing him here against the New England defense that just gave up Davis Mills 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. So not saying to sit Dak Prescott. Just make sure to check the weather in that game. That always plays a factor. So, and then Aaron Rodgers on the road against Chicago Bears. Not necessarily, in my opinion, the greatest matchup here. Bears giving up only the 6th fewest fantasy points to quarterbacks. But Aaron Rodgers last season in 2 games against these Bears, where I would say the defense is probably very similar coming into this season. 4 passing touchdowns in both games last year. So I'm starting Aaron Rodgers here, albeit it could be a tough game. The Bears have held their opponents down in most games this year outside of week 1 against Matthew Stafford. So Rodgers, you're firing him here more than likely. If you drafted him as your quarterback 1, he's an obvious start. So now I got some sits for you. Kirk Cousins, I'd be sitting him this week, 2 straight weeks, where he's kind of struggled a little bit against Cleveland Browns, and then last week, even against the Detroit Lions. Didn't really get it done, to be honest. And this week, on the road against Carolina defense, that's been pretty darn good, plain and simple. They've only allowed 1 quarterback to have over 200 yards, and that was actually Zach Wilson week 1. where it was pretty much garbage time. So even Dak Prescott last week, under 200 yards passing, did finish with 4 touchdowns, but I don't like Kirk Cousins this week. Not in a tough matchup on the road. I'm looking for better options. On the flip side of that ball, Sam Darnold, 2 weeks, 5 interceptions. It's looking almost like the old Sam Darnold. Now, yes, he always has the opportunity with the rushing upside that he's possessed, 5 rushing touchdowns, but I don't really like him against Minnesota. Their defense has been decent as well, albeit they haven't really played a lot of good quarterbacks. But I think this game is just a game I really want to stay away from altogether. So I'm sitting Kirk Cousins, I'm sitting Sam Darnold, and then Derek Carr. I got him on the sits this week at Denver. Tough defense in Mile High. Second fewest fantasy points to quarterbacks, and obviously the coaching situation, changing over head coaches. New offensive coordinator, albeit they already have a relationship there, so I think they'll keep the offense humming. But Derek Carr and this Raiders offense just hasn't been on the same page in the last couple weeks. We've seen it. So I'm going to be sitting Derek Carr this week in a tough matchup on the road. And then I don't like Ryan Tannehill this week. I actually haven't liked him much on the season. He just hasn't played very well. And now he's got to go on Monday Night Football. He is at home, but against the Buffalo Bills defense that has just been playing lights out, plain and simple. I don't like Ryan Tannehill. He's sitting for me this week. Then I got a few streaming options. Number 1, Taylor Heinicke. Plain and simple. I didn't really like him last week. I thought the Saints defense is up and down, and it could have gave him fits, and it did. So obviously I had Taylor Heinicke as a sit, but he's a good stream option this week. Against Kansas City Chiefs defense that's looking like Swiss cheese, plain and simple. Josh Allen carved him up. They just haven't been good. They haven't been able to get at the passer, and I like Taylor Heinicke here in a plus matchup. On top of that, it's a high over-under in this game. So Taylor Heinicke, in my opinion, is a must-start this week. Carson Wentz. Talk a little about him. His play has upticked over the few weeks, and he's gotten better and looking better. Coming off a game in which he had 400 passing yards, 2 touchdowns against Baltimore Ravens. He looks pretty decent. Don't get me wrong. The pass catchers seem to be starting to mesh. Paris Campbell, Zach Pascal. He's getting Mo Alley Cox involved. You know what comes with Pittman. So obviously Carson Wentz this week on a stream option at home against Houston defense that doesn't really scare me. I like Carson Wentz as a potential stream option this week. My last streaming option, Trevor Lawrence. In London, playing a Miami Dolphins defense that has not looked good, plain and simple. Their strength was supposed to be the secondary. They've been dealing with a little bit of injuries. You saw Tampa Bay. Tom Brady just absolutely lit them up. The Jaguars are getting that offense rolling. He's getting it done on the ground. You see his rushing upside with the run-pass option, plain and simple. Miami's also given up 4th most fantasy points to quarterbacks. So Trevor Lawrence, a low-end stream option for me this week. If you got to stream him in a pinch, I get it. There's some players that are on bye. Let's say you were waiting on Trey Lance. He was your starter, and now he's on bye. Trevor Lawrence, he's a potential stream option. So that's it. That's the quarterbacks, the sits, starts, streams for Week 6 for all your fantasy teams, plain and simple. So once again, don't forget, like the video, subscribe, share, thumb bell, all that good stuff, and then comment. If there's a quarterback you want to ask more about or one that I missed on, obviously I didn't touch every quarterback, but if there's one that I missed on you want to hear more about, drop it in the comment section. I'll be glad to get back to you. So for the first 4 downs, it's been B. Scott, and I'm out.